When we think about the most powerful regimes in history, we usually picture armies, ideologies, big institutions. But what if the real foundation was something way more primal? What if it was all built on feeling? The political philosopher Hannah Arendt had this really chilling observation. What she's getting at is that people don't always crave facts. What they crave is a story that feels true, an illusion that satisfies some deep emotional need. And that leads us right to the big question for this explainer. How exactly does a leader take a nation's feelings and turn them into a tool of power? What's the actual mechanism? All right, to get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at four figures who pretty much defined the 20th century: Mussolini, Hitler, Lenin, and Stalin. The argument is that they weren't just politicians. No, they were architects of our psychological reality. They were true merchants of emotion. Think about it. Before a single law was written, before a single battle was fought, these leaders got a fundamental truth. If you want to control a nation, you first have to capture its heart. Emotion. That was the real raw material they worked with. Okay, but before we go any further, we have to get something straight. There's a really crucial difference we need to talk about, one that gets blurred all the time. We have to pull apart the idea of populism from the actual system of totalitarianism. And here's the breakdown. So populism, right? It's more of a political logic. It's a way of saying it's us, the pure people, against them, the corrupt elite. And that can absolutely happen inside a democracy. Totalitarianism, though, that's a whole different beast. It's a complete system of governance. It's not about challenging the system. It's about tearing it down completely, demanding total control and absolute submission. They are not the same thing. So how does one even begin to lead to the other? Well, this is where a key idea comes in: the emotional regime. Think of it like an entire climate of feeling, one that's deliberately engineered by the state. It's a world where some emotions, like fear or blind loyalty, are put on a pedestal and encouraged, while others are stamped out. This is the exact environment these leaders wanted to create. So if your goal is to build one of these emotional regimes, how do you actually do it? What's in the toolbox? Well, it turns out that these leaders, for all their different ideologies, were using a remarkably similar toolkit for this emotional engineering. But here's the thing: that jump from a populist movement to a full-blown totalitarian state, it doesn't just happen by accident. It is not inevitable. Nope. It takes a very specific, very deliberate playbook, a kind of emotional engineering. And it breaks down into 3 steps. Step 1, you've got to have an enemy. Nothing brings a group together faster than a common them. Step 2, you stage huge mass rituals. Politics isn't about boring debates anymore. It's a show, a spectacle, a shared emotional high. And finally, step 3, you forge emotional unity. The whole idea of me starts to dissolve into a powerful collective us. Now, what's fascinating is that while the toolkit was basically the same, each of these leaders put their own spin on it. They didn't just sell one emotion, they sold specific flavors of it, perfectly tailored to their country and their cause. Take Mussolini. His brand was all about bringing back the glory of ancient Rome. He sold pride. The core feeling was this disciplined, militarized sense of national rebirth, making everyday Italians feel like they were the heirs to a mighty empire once more. Then you have Hitler and his emotional cocktail. Well, it was much, much darker and way more powerful. It was a fusion of intense racial pride in some mythic Aryan identity, combined with a gut-level hatred for the Jewish people and a constant burning fear of being destroyed. Lenin, on the other hand, came at it from a totally different angle. He tapped into the incredible power of hope, this dream of a perfect, classless utopia. But he paired that hope with a pure, righteous anger aimed right at the ruling class, the bourgeoisie. And then there's Stalin, who took this to a whole new level, a truly chilling duality. On one side, you had this absolute paralyzing fear of the secret police, of the purges. And on the other, this forced, manufactured worship of him as the great father of nations. Love and terror, living side by side. Okay, so this table really puts it all together, side by side. You can see how each leader started with a different foundation: race for Hitler, class for Lenin, the nation for Mussolini, and then they amplified a specific set of core emotions like pride or hope or just sheer terror, and they activated these feelings with their own unique tools. Hitler's rallies, Lenin's propaganda, Stalin's purges, Mussolini's parades. The strategy was identical, even when the details were different. Achieve total mastery of human feeling. So you might be thinking, okay, this is all grim history, but why does it matter today? Because this toolkit isn't just sitting in a museum. Recognizing these patterns is about understanding that being vigilant about our emotions is a fundamental part of keeping a society free. Because here's the bottom line. The systematic control of our collective feelings, that is the bridge that turns a political movement into a system of total domination. That's the secret ingredient. And realizing when our own emotions are being mobilized for someone else's political gain is one of the most powerful shields we have. And that leaves us with a pretty heavy question to think about. In a world where emotions can be amplified and targeted with terrifying precision, is being constantly aware of how our own feelings are being shaped, is that the new price of freedom? You know, maybe George Orwell said it best. It doesn't all happen at once, with a big bang. It happens quietly, in the subtle shifts of how a nation feels, in the little concessions we make to fear, or in the intoxicating rush of just belonging to the crowd.